Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. This is an episode of Montessori Talks. I'm Mira the Montessorian, and I am speaking to Bridget Dangel out of Key Largo. She owns a wonderful school that I got to visit recently. So, hello, Bridget.
Hello, Mira. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed visiting your school recently. I have to say it was the highlight of my trip to the Keys. Definitely. It was lovely to meet a kindred Montessori mama and teacher and fellow owner of a school. We've been in contact since my visit, and she's sponsoring me a bit, giving me some materials she had in storage so that I can do my mobile Montessori project. So thanks again for that. It's a huge help for me and my boys.
Good. You're welcome.
Thank you. So I've got some questions for you, and we'll just have a nice little Montessori chat for our Montessori Talks. The first thing is, what made you choose to be a Montessori educator, and when did you start your Montessori journey?
Well, I was finishing university in Canada, where I'm from, and I finished up with my Bachelor of Arts degree, and I was applying to go into Teachers College in the traditional system. Mm-hmm. My father and mother lived about 4 hours away from where I lived, and they went to the gym often. And so he came home from the gym one day and called me and said, I worked out next to this woman today who happened to be a Montessori teacher, mm-hmm. and they spent hours together talking, and so he called me up and said, Bridget, I have found your calling. Stop everything, and this is what you need to look into. So he mailed me a bunch of information, and before I knew it, picking me up and driving me to Toronto for my interview, I started teaching college there shortly thereafter. So I thank my father for the introduction.
That's amazing. So did you go and visit some schools before you enrolled in the college?
I went in blindly. I went to the interview at Toronto Montessori Institute, and the enrollment process was closed. But my father was adamant that this was for me, and I had to keep pushing it. And so I continuously called, and they invited me to come for a after-the-fact interview, and they accepted me there on the spot. And I started within a week, and it just and it became my everything. And who knew how
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so lucky. I love it.
I was 22 at the time.
Nice.
So pretty young. Yeah.
Before children?
So much before. Thankfully, before.
That is nice. I'm very grateful for working with children in a school setting, especially Montessori setting, before becoming a parent. It definitely gave me an idea of what to go into, what I was getting into as a parent.
I sometimes wonder what kind of a parent I would have been without the Montessori training.
Oh gosh, yeah, definitely. And how do you think that the Montessori education in particular has shaped your view of childhood, or, like you said, your own children or your students? What do you think it's given you the most?
I think taking my Montessori training earlier in life has given me a different kind of an idea around children, a different level of respect, a different level of patience and admiration for the child's abilities. I appreciate the process now. I don't need to have that instant end result. I really do look forward to the day-to-day, the small steps that bring us to that final product at the end. Mm-hmm. Everything from just tucking in chairs to allowing the child the time they need to answer, to giving them that sense of independence that I don't think I realized before the Montessori training.
Did you think it maybe gave you more patience as well?
Absolutely. 100%.
That's
realizing
helpful.
That they don't learn the same way as adults, that they need to do things a different way. And without the training, I wouldn't have known that.
That's huge. It really is. It really is huge. Because I think as adults, and especially as parents, we get frustrated so many times where we think that the children aren't listening to us, or they're like disobeying us, or why don't they, clean up their room? Why don't they do the thing we're asking? Why is it so hard for them? But when you do have that training, or you look into that and you investigate what it is that they're doing in their process, it really does create more peace in ourselves to allow them to do what they need to do. Exactly like you're saying, like just like adults, it might take us 5 times hitting our head against the wall trying to figure out, I don't know, how to make a website before we can finally do it for our business. Children take some time learning those letters and recognizing them and recognizing the symbol and the connection between the sounds. And
it's interesting
helped me.
because at the same time that they need more time, I feel like my expectations of what a child can do grew tremendously when I did my Montessori training. I don't know how many people really know the capabilities of a child until you're showing through Montessori Teachers College what they can do. I didn't believe a lot of it until I saw it in practice. Yeah. And like you say, one of my parents in my classroom said, I've never met a teacher with such high expectations of their children. I think we have to set those standards high, but be patient while they find their way. Exactly.
Yeah, I used to get those monthly emails from this parenting website. Okay, what to expect this month with your child's development, and I would just kind of leaf through it and go, yeah, he did that already. Like, we're good. We've done that. Like, yes, he can already do this and this and this thing. Like, move on, 6 months ahead. But I agree with you. Yeah, it's definitely, that was a big thing of when I learned about Montessori and her history, of hearing about what was expected of children in her time. Like they didn't even try to educate them till they were 7. And the things that she was able to show them and watch them spontaneously learn at 4, 5, and 6 was just incredible. And now that's a little more the standard.
And remember how she learned most of that was just from observing those children. And she was surprised. I love that in her writings. She's always shocked and surprised at their abilities just from sitting back and watching them.
Right, or shocked that they chose the materials versus the toys. She's like, I can't believe they wanted to do the math. They didn't want to play with the doll. Like, what? And then she had to come up with new materials.
You remember the story? She came in a little late one day into class, and she had locked up all the materials in those closets, and she found that lock it, and the children had it all out, and that's when she realized, I can't keep them locked up. We have to leave them out for the children always.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I love those little stories. It's amazing. What would you say would be maybe your biggest tips for parents if they are interested in Montessori at home, ways that they can support their child's development without the training that we had?
That's right. I'd say the first thing they should do is just to get down on the level of the child and to observe their environment through the eyes of a child, so that they can see how different it is than from where we stand today. To make things more accommodating for their children, like to give them the bottom shelf in the refrigerator, to make a drawer just for them, for their dishes and their silverware, so they can be independent and do things for themselves. Another thing is I try to teach my parents here at the school to not thank their child all the time or to praise them, especially when it's things that they're expected to do, such as tying their shoes or using the toilet. To be careful with those praises. Of course, to be kind, smile a lot, but not to go outright praising them. Yeah, good job.
Good job. You brushed your teeth. Good job. No, it's a work in progress. For a lot of parents. I also
tell parents to be very clear and precise with their expectations, to have their child know their boundaries, no guessing, to know what they can and can't get away with. Or I think children feel more comfortable and satisfied when they know their boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes parents don't have that top to their boundary level, and the child doesn't know where to go or where to stop. So just to be clear and taking the guesswork out of life for the kids.
Definitely. How about this one, rewards and punishments? Since you're already talking about steering away from the good job and the praises for doing things that they need to be doing, and talking about boundaries, what is the difference between the rewards and punishment or lack thereof in a classroom versus at home, would you say? Like, how does that look differently between the two settings?
I hope it doesn't. I would like it to be a consistent comparison or a comparable. For my own children at home, or is that what you mean?
For you, yeah, for yourself.
It's very similar because I've been teaching Montessori for 20 years now. My 3 children pretty much feel like they're at school sometimes when they're at home. There's no changes. They aren't rewarded for doing things they're expected to do. Punishment is simply a reflection. Please go find some quiet space, reflect, and when they're ready to come and speak to me about whatever just happened, I try to empower my children even when they're being disciplined to say, you're the only one that knows when you're ready to come and speak to me.
Right.
I'm here when you're ready. But you will not hurt your sister or hurt the dog or something. You know, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
So just reflect, think, and come and see me when you're ready.
What about things like if they, I don't know, if they don't clean up their room, is there like what kind of natural consequences could you offer your children for things that they, maybe if they're not helping around the house?
I like to, some of my teachers here at the school kind of chuckle and kind of coined for the phrase, it's not an option. You know, sometimes things in life just are not an option. How you accomplish tasks, that's the option, but not cleaning up your room, it's simply not. If it becomes a struggle, which it does with my 7-year-old sometimes at home, I will offer help to a certain point to help get that challenge or that task done. But her not participating, it just can't happen.
Yeah.
So takes patience sometimes, but she'll always come around and realize it's better for the family. It's better for her. And she can either have my help or she can do it on her own. That would be the reward, I guess, is having my help.
Definitely. Would you ever, like, let's say, I don't know, I struggle with my boys. They're 3, 6, and 8. And they love Legos. And I think Legos are amazing because they have such the children have such great concentration and focus and hand-eye coordination when they're working with them, and they use their imagination and they get really into it, but they make a big mess. And so our constant daily thing is trying to manage the Legos on the bed or the Legos on the floor. And we've come up with some creative ways, like, you know, a sheet where they put the sheet down and they put the Legos there. That way it's easier to clean up afterwards. But it's like, even at bedtime, okay, guys, you have 5 minutes to finish getting the Legos off your bed, or there's nowhere for you to lay down. And occasionally I'll say, if the Legos are so distracting for you, you know, we might need to give them a break for a day or two or something like that. Do you encounter anything like that at home? Or do you have another way that you would handle that?
With my 3-year-old. He doesn't ever want to put the Lego away. Absolutely. So I either, you know, I ask a few times. I'm very patient. I explain to him, we are falling over your Lego. We are tripping on them. You must clean them up. And then I get to the same point. You can ask your sisters to help you, or you can do it by yourself. I can help you, or you can do it by yourself. But I'll just sit there with them sometimes and tell him, I will sit here until you're ready to help, you know, to show me you're ready to help start putting it away. It can be a struggle. Absolutely. It's not as easy as I may be making it seem. But again, it's not an option. Like you have to do it for safety, for cleanliness. And it's not trying to impress upon them. It's not just for them. It's for the family. For your sister who's sharing a bed with you, if they're on the bed, it's for, you know.
Exactly. So, I once talked to, we had this great toddler teacher who came to work with us the first year we had our school in Samui. And she used to tell me the best phrase that she had found was, it's time. Now it's time to eat. Now it's time to clean up. Well, now it's time that we get ready for a nap. And now it's time that we get our shoes on because we're going outside. Like, that's it. You can't argue with time. It's the time to do X, Y, and Z. There you go. That's it.
It takes it's not coming from mom then. It's just time.
Right. It's just time. That's it. It's the time to do it.
It's perfect.
I know. I love that. What's the most important part of your role as an educator in a Montessori classroom?
Hands down, the most important role for me is to prepare the classroom environment. Once it's completely prepared, then my job is to introduce the children how to properly use the materials. And then my job is to step back and allow the child the freedom to explore and learn with those materials. Of course, there are some children that need more repetition and to be shown. So my job is also to tirelessly introduce a lesson to a child until they received what they needed from that material.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job, to create a peaceful, harmonious, beautiful environment.
Oh yeah, it's all about the environment, and that's big at home as well, because we can do so much to prepare our homes that our children can actually help easily around the house or get their own projects going. Like you were saying about the kitchen, giving them their own drawer, their own cabinet, or having access to the sink or something like that. I love that. Definitely, there's that triangle of adult, child, environment. Constant balance between the three. Yeah, definitely. What would be the top 3 reasons to choose Montessori education? That's what I'm going for.
Okay, I'd say number 1 would be I would offer their child not only an academic-based education, but I would offer them a 3-part system of academic, social, and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
I think Montessori can provide equally those 3 realms of an education system. So it goes beyond the reading and the writing. I'm going to educate that child socially.
Mm-hmm.
They can be a great contributor to the world, and also emotionally, so they can pride themselves and therefore then put pride into others.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the independence would be my second answer. I would create a sense of independence and pride for that child once again. Montessori says that children are born into this world wanting to achieve and be just like their parents.
Right.
So here at the school, we will give them those tools to be independent and feel great about themselves. And the third reason was to take pride in themselves. I love the whole Montessori part about, they learn how to care for themselves first, their environment, and for others.
Yeah.
So I will also encourage the care for environment as well.
I love those. What is it? The phrase of the 3 to 6-year-old is "help me to do it myself."
Help me do it by myself.
To do it by myself. And I hear that constantly both with the children that I work with in school, and then in my own. Right now, my nearly 4-year-old, he's been dressing himself already for like almost 2 years, but he's gotten to the point where he really cares about if his shoes are on the right direction. And like the last several months, it's really sweet to see he holds them up before he puts them on. He goes, "Is it like this?" I go, either, "Yeah, it is." And he gets really excited and he makes like a face for himself. Or I go, "Well, actually it's the other way." And then he goes, "Oh, okay. And then he puts it on and he kind of smiles and looks at his feet. And it's just nice to see those little milestones of when they're independent and they're happy about it. Like you said, when they're proud about what they can achieve and what they're capable of. And it's really nice to see when things are set up so they can just go and get the shoes or go and put their clothes on or, organize their drawer. I love that.
My 3.5-year-old is going through a weird phase about wearing long sleeve shirts, and it's hot here in the Keys, but he calls them his assistant shirts, and we cannot figure out what that means, why it's an assistant shirt, or even if he knows what an assistant is.
Oh, how funny.
But he gets so excited when he finds one of these long sleeve shirts and he puts them on,
He feels more mature wearing it. He's ready to help the younger children in the classroom. That's interesting. Yeah. My children went through a phase where we also are in a warm environment like you. They got really into long socks. And they had to wear their knee-high socks everywhere. I don't know how they could stand the heat, but they were very into it, just like the long-sleeve shirts. We went with it. They could put them on themselves. They could take them off and put them in the laundry. We said, okay, sure, that's your thing right now. Go for it.
Right. Who are we to really know why, right? We just have to support it.
Exactly. Yeah. So in every area of a classroom, there's a few materials that you have to make.
Yes.
Would you like to talk about some of the materials that you made for your classroom, or maybe some that are your kind of most favorite ones that you have as a local material?
I'd say this year more than ever, my co-teacher and I have instilled a system of washing their own dishes. So my children have always used glass plates and glass cups, and We do have tile in part of our classroom, and if it breaks, we clean it up. It's no big deal, but I find they are very much, more careful. So the washing system is great. Even after a snack, they like to get the whole placemat and small plate for snack, and then they wash it themselves. And so we've gone through a few different ways of scrubbing the dishes clean and the washing and the drying stands. So that's definitely a big part of our classroom environment this year. Some of my favorite lessons are the ones that they can find in their own kitchens at home. The cheese grater. We've been doing a lot of yucca or potato grating with
nice. That's
we do can opener work, the whisking, of course.
Whisks are a favorite.
Juicers. We bring in the juicers, the old school ones, and they just love that. So anything that they can go home and realize, hey, this is in my kitchen here too.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite.
That's great. Yeah. I always try to get my 3.5-year-old involved in pancakes. He really likes to have pancakes. He likes to be the one that pours the measuring cup. He likes to do the stirring with the whisk. It's nice to see when they do transfer over from home and school. It's really beautiful.
I've been working on a braiding board. I'm not satisfied yet. I'm still trying different models, but I've been trying to find the best way to teach children braiding to make it beautiful and tactile.
That's a nice one. Yeah. No, braiding's great. We've been working on tying shoelaces. It's interesting because oftentimes in Montessori schools, we ask the children or we ask the parents to bring the children with clothes that they have an easier time getting on or off, that they can be more independent. And one thing that I noticed is we had continued with the shoes, with the Velcro or, stretchy shoes. And the boys for the first time this year chose shoes with laces and actually had to figure out the lacing outside of the lacing frame. And it's been really neat to see how they kind of evolve with either their shoelace tying, or my 6-year-old, I think he can tie his laces, but he's gotten really creative on how to tie it, keep it tied to get his shoe in and out without retying it, or tuck it into the side of his shoe.
That's the middle child, right?
Right. Yeah. Braiding shoelaces. Have you ever seen any correlation between the ability to tie a bow and how clean a handwriting is?
Their fine motor skills will be quite intact when they can tie a bow. So I'm imagining, they'd have a great handwriting as well, right? We're just used to a lot of flip-flops here in the Keys, to be honest. We have to say, put a note out, everyone wear running shoes, tennis shoes this week, no flip-flops. We don't see many laces here either, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there's a lot less.
Do you see that? You see that?
So I recently worked in a school in Hollywood, and again, I'd been in Hawaii where we usually have Crocs and easy off and on shoes, and in Thailand we didn't wear shoes in the classroom anyway because we don't wear shoes inside over there, and then most of the children would wear Crocs. But I did see some laces for the first time in quite some time, and the children really struggled with it. So we were really trying to get the lace frame out to show them again, and here's how we do the bows. You can do this on your shoes. Here, let me show you again and again. Or they elicited help from older children, which is always nice to see as well.
I think those dressing frames are timeless, though, aren't they? They really are. So much.
They really are, except for the safety pin one. I find that the one with the safety pins, I find that a little less.
That's hard.
That's hard.
Yeah, it is. We don't see that as often. No more cloth diapers and things like that.
Yeah, well, the cloth diapers have the Velcro now. They don't have the safety pins anymore. That's just a little bit different. But you'll still encounter them eventually, so it's good to know what to do.
Very good.
Definitely. So let's see. Do you see the children able to thrive with the freedom within limits model of Montessori education?
Absolutely. Children can thrive with limits. Let me think.
Skipping ahead.
I know, you did. So you threw me for a second. That's
sorry.
The only thing I thought of when you first said that, though, was the 3 levels of discipline. One of my favorite aspects of Montessori, too, is that she talks about that third level of discipline, which I think a lot of traditional systems don't quite tap into. So the freedom within limits clicks in at that third stage of discipline when a child will choose the right way of behaving and acting towards others. We eternally want to be good and make the world a better place. So I don't think it works that well at first. A child needs to have a lot of exposure and experience to freedom and modeling their behavior. You know, we model our behavior so they see it. Thank goodness for the multi-age classrooms. These younger children can be modeling after the older children, giving them freedom. But remember, too, in Montessori, we don't ever want them to fail. So we have to set them up for success within this freedom within the classroom. And then eventually they get to make those choices beautifully on their own.
Definitely. So just to change it up a little bit, I really think there's a lot of freedom in a Montessori classroom, but often people that don't know as much about Montessori, they think it's a very strict method. What would you say? Is it more free? Is it more strict? Is it just a fine balance between the two?
I'd say it depends too on every child. Every child is different and every child needs it a little differently. For my kindergarten group this year, I teach in a 3 to 6 classroom. So for my kindergarten children, they know most mornings they come in and I have their math books set pulled toward, closer to the edge of the shelf. And I'll remind them, you've got a math lesson, a language lesson, that they can choose whatever they want and a journal entry to do. And they can choose it in any order. But before they finish those 3 tasks, those are their 3 first tasks of the day, and then they can choose whatever else they want. So that's freedom within limits. They are free to choose the order, but they do have to get those tasks done. So I think that's my view on freedom within limits.
I like that also with the older children, because it's often difficult in a Montessori environment to keep that free choice, but still encourage them to do the harder tasks of reading, writing, math that they really do need to do. I still struggle with the journal aspect for my 8-year-old. He promised his first grade teacher last year in our Montessori school that he would keep a travel journal. And he's waffled back and forth. Like, he'll sometimes draw the pictures. He'll sometimes write a sentence or two. But for him, he gets really nervous about misspelling things. And so he doesn't like to do free journaling, but he has beautiful handwriting and he's really good with language. So I help him a little bit so that he can still do it. But I like that your 5 and 6-year-olds are doing their journal activities. Are they using the movable alphabet with them?
They do. They use their movable alphabet, but I try so hard, like you said, not to focus on the spelling, just to get their thoughts onto the paper. Definitely. They illustrate it after the fact. And I do want to go back. I know I said math books. It's not the traditional math workbook. I use this great, the graph paper within the little pink books that Montessorians do tend to use. So they have blank paper that they fill in. Just wanted to make sure that was clear. Not a big book Montessori teacher, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely not. However, I have started to use a little bit of workbooks because my 8-year-old especially, he really loves the math facts. And I found that it's a nice way to just have more and more math facts that he can do. Like, he will flip to the end of any little first grade or kindergarten math book and do the test at the end for fun. He's like, time me, Mom. I want 2 minutes and I'm going to see how many I can do. It's neat to see how it evolves.
Around 7. Right around 7 or 8 are to get into that, and that sense of accomplishment is there. It's concrete and a bounded book. I support that 100%. Yeah, but for age 5 and 6, not yet.
I don't need it, not at all. No, I love to see the 5 and 6-year-olds with the golden beads and counting up to 9,000 and getting all the hundreds out and the tens. I think it's the most fun just to see how they can collaborate that way. And I love that in Montessori math that once you've got your 1 to 10 down, you can just go straight to the thousands.
9,999. There's no difference. I know. I just did a Montessori parent ed night a few weeks ago and we talked about that. That's amazing.
I love it. I love that so much. And I think I'm going to have some golden beads from you soon, so I'm excited to be using them some more. I recently I was at Walmart and I saw these gold bead necklaces, and I went, oh, I can use those. and I cut them up into 10 little strings of 10. So I have a couple more 10 bars, and then I can snip them so I have the units. And then one whole necklace is about 100 beads. I'm like, oh, there we go. We can see how long it is. Trying to get as creative as possible.
To square the chain to make the square.
Exactly. Okay, so I kind of went back and forth. I gave you a few questions that I might ask. So I'll ask you this one. In your experience, how does the mixed age group benefit the child the most?
The older children, of course, are going to benefit from being mentors. They're going to learn to be patient. They're not going to be as frustrated at behaviors where you think some children might be who aren't exposed to those behaviors. Mm-hmm. And of course, the younger ones are just going to be in awe of the older ones and strive to be the best person they can be. Whenever I have new families come through my school, I explain that philosophy to them, such as an adult, when are we ever surrounded by people who are all the same age as us? Right. It never happens. Exactly. I think it's an unrealistic model that needs to change.
That is so true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And for years, we put kids within their same age groups. I don't think it's preparing them for life very well.
You're right. Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we shouldn't care. Like, I don't know how old you are, Mira, and I don't seriously care. It doesn't matter. It should be your interest. And I love seeing friendships grow from a kindergartner and a 3-year-old, that they have life together and they have common interests. That's all that matters.
I so love to see that, where the older child helps the younger child. And I've seen so many times, like a 5-year-old, like really excited about the new toddler who's graduated into the primary class, and I want to show you how we do lunch here. You can sit with me, we can have lunch together. Oh, you have trouble with your shoes, let me help you, and this is where we put them. I think it's so sweet to see when it's spontaneous with that mentorship as well.
Especially when that older child may not have a younger sibling at home. When else are they going to experience that in their lives?
So true. No, that's such a great point. Yeah, I'll have to use that more often of the mixed age and adults. It's so true. What's your favorite part of teaching in a Montessori classroom?
I actually, kind of selfishly an answer, I love the bonds that develop between the children and myself, the love that grows after having that same group of children for 3 years is so truly like nothing else, and the relationships that we develop with the parents as well. It's this really close connection. They feel like they're at home. When I come to work each day, I don't feel like I'm going to work. I kick my shoes off. I'm at my second house, nice. And so that is absolutely my favorite part about a Montessori classroom, is the ability to keep that same group of kids year after year.
Yeah, that's unfortunately something that we couldn't really do in Koh Samui very much. We really had children for like 6-month cycles, not 3-year cycles. And it was really sad to see them go, and really frustrating to constantly restart that cycle so quickly. So I would love to have that experience like you have with the actual 3-year cycle and that deep bond, and really to see where the child comes from, 3 to 6 years old, and just to see how far they go and they grow in the environment.
But even those children that are with us for a short time, I think you would agree, they feel like they're entering a home.
Definitely.
So comfortable, and they look at school as such an exciting and comfortable place to be. That's amazing.
And we did tend to get quite a few children who would come from Europe, for instance, and they had already been in a Montessori school. And to see the look of like just relief on their faces when the classroom was familiar to them was really, really nice. They're like, oh, I had that in my class, and oh, I know how to do this. I've seen this before. And also for my children, that's been one of the saving graces for us traveling, is that school has always been the easiest transition, because they know kind of what to expect, and they know how they'll be treated, and they kind of know the flow of the day, and they know the materials. So that's really helpful.
I love seeing children transition in from a traditional system into Montessori. And when you say, okay, you may go choose your lesson now, you may go choose some work, and they just look at you and say, what? I can choose? And it kind of hurts my heart, to think this child has not given that choice until now. But yes, you choose what you want to do. It's empowering.
It is empowering. It's beautiful to see. I love that too. So do you have any favorite quote, Montessori quote that really speaks to you or that you share very often?
I've had one hanging above my desk as I'm the owner of the school as well. I have a desk that I very rarely sit at, but I have a quote that's been hanging there for years, and it says, "The greatest reverence is owed to the child." Short and simple, and it's true. We owe so much respect to these children who Montessori said are born perfect, ultimately, and it's up to us to help keep them that way.
That's great. Yeah. I had a very
similar. What is yours, Mira? Do you have one?
I do. I had a really similar one. I had a great picture of Montessori with this little girl, and they're looking at a seashell. It's a fairly well-known picture. Yep. I'm trying to remember now exactly how it went, but it was like something along the lines on children deserve our respect because of their nature and their innocence and what they're capable of. Something like that. I have to get that quote back. I have all of my stuff is in storage. But now I have a quote up that someone gave me. It's really beautiful, and it says, "Children become like the things that they love." A nice one too. So, like we were talking about earlier, they strive to do what they see and to become often like their parents, which leads us to want to be better parents and be good role models because they do start to sound like us after a few years. And they do start to do things like us.
The quote that's in my classroom right now for the parents to see says, "Love what you teach, teach what you love."
Oh, yeah.
That's another good
one. Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, I like that too. What do you love about the school you work in?
Well, I have to love it because I was able to create it. I love that.
It's another baby.
Yeah, my oldest child, who's now 12, just turned 12 the other day. She was 2 when I started the school. Wonderful. So just the love that went into creating the school, not for, of course, all the children in this community, but also for my own children. And me realizing I could do that as a mother, and provide for my children the teachers that I thought were great enough, that shared similar philosophies and would give them that respect and that patience that they needed. Mm-hmm. I like working with a team of women that are like-minded.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
It makes it easier to know I work long hours and weekends, and it just makes it all worth it knowing that at the end of the day, this was really ultimately for my children.
Right, exactly. And when you're spending a large amount of money on new materials, you're excited to get them. It's like, it's like Christmas. Oh, I got my new math materials. I got my new small pitcher or dishwashing stand or something. I was the same. My first son was just going into the toddler class when we opened our school, and I was in such a rush to get the school ready so that he would have that toddler class. And I was so excited about his teacher, and just wanting to do anything to help her get his classroom ready and recruit his friends in. And it's a different shift when you're running the school your child goes to, for sure. But it's a really neat bond that way, like you're saying.
Will you give me one quick sec?
Sure. So tell me, Bridget, are there any grace and courtesy practices in your class that you think that would be useful for those of us parents at home?
I think from the moment they arrive to school, there's the biggest grace and courtesy lesson, and that's greeting each other as children, but also greeting their teachers. Mm-hmm. And I do a handshake or a high five, whatever they want, but usually a handshake. I get down on their level, and we make eye-to-eye contact. And that's how we start the day. Most of them come in for a hug, of course, and want to embrace. But I think acknowledging each child's presence from the get-go is a really big grace and courtesy move or a moment. We also each day, this year I've incorporated something we're calling morning meetings. Mm-hmm. It's based on the responsive classroom model, but I've twisted it to be more of a Montessori experience. Mm-hmm. So every day we come to circle around between 9 and 10 whenever the classroom flow needs a change. Mm-hmm. We together, and part of that morning meeting are announcements. So I give children the opportunity to announce whatever it is they want to share with their classmates. Also, I give them a positive message, like an inspiring kind of empowering message for them. And then we do our group lesson at that moment as well. So I love this morning meeting. Of course, always the peace table is an important part of grace and courtesy, leaving objects there that are respected, and a place for the children to be alone when they want to be alone. And we have a buddy bench on our playground, so a child can sit on the buddy bench and another child will see that and know they need someone to play with and come over to invite them.
That's great.
Those are some grace and courtesy ideas.
Those are fun. I like that buddy bench idea. Tell me, what would we find on your peace table?
Right now, we've got a little labyrinth that you can use your finger with, or there's a marble that you can push through it. We've got a massive magnifying glass, and we put little objects there that they can see that are larger or smaller. There's the peace rose. And I'm trying to...
Do you do the We Declare Peace in your classroom with the peace rose? In San Francisco, we did that, where if they were having a conflict, we would say, okay, I think it's time to go get the peace rose. And then the child that would hold the rose would say, I didn't like it when you stepped on my rug, or I didn't like it when you told me that my drawing wasn't nice. And then the other child would have a turn to say something. And then at the end, they would say, we declare peace. And then they'd move on. They'd forget about it.
I'm going to use that. Right now, the peace rose just indicates whoever's holding that peace rose is the one who is speaking. And they pass it to their friend to have their turn when they're done. But I love the ending, Mira. That's great.
I thought that was sweet. It wasn't me. It was this wonderful teacher that I worked with, but I definitely continued that once I had my own classroom.
Excellent.
Just kind of gives them that kind of, okay, we're done here. And they move on.
Close it and move on. Exactly. Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I love how quickly they move on. They really do. As long as they've acknowledged that something's happened, somebody's been told about it, and that's it.
Very few children hold grudges, that's for sure.
That's one wonderful thing about children. And something that's great for us is as adults to remember and to constantly strive for as well. Like when you're an educator, even if things can get frustrating, or you wish that a child was able to get the lesson the first 2 times or something, but you know that you need to keep presenting it, just to hit the reset button. Don't hold a grudge for them as well, just to keep going, okay, well, let me try another way. Let me communicate that in a way that they will get it, or let me go at it at a different angle, or make a irresistible invitation to this that maybe they didn't think it was so exciting before, but now spreading peanut butter on a cracker is the most exciting thing ever, or working with the bead chain, or counting the 1,000 chain, or something like that.
Absolutely. And just as the handshake in the morning, it's a great way to end your day with your students, is to have that same handshake, that same embrace, a goodbye, acknowledgement. So they know, even if they had struggles that day, or they weren't getting along with their friends, or listening to the classroom rules, it's okay. Yeah. I still love you. I still say goodbye to you. And I can't wait to see you again tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that as well. This class that I was working with in Hollywood, one of my favorite, my favorite times of the day were often in the morning. I would sit down on a little stool and shake their hand and welcome them into the classroom before I would start working with anybody. And I love to come in and greet them, like you were talking about, get down at the level, make that connection. And then at the end of the day, they would be called. We were on one side of the school, and the parents would pick them up on the other. So I would escort them, like 1 or 2 at a time. And it was just such a nice time to have with that 1 or 2 children. And what did you like about today? And we'd kind of say, did you have a good time today? What was your favorite thing? What are you excited about doing now with your parents? I'm happy to see you tomorrow. All right, have a great afternoon. I think it's really nice, especially in the Montessori classroom, we have that luxury of time with the children. We have that luxury of creating those bonds.
You made me think of another favorite quote of Montessori, and she says, to spend one-on-one time with every child every day feeds their soul. Feeds the soul of a child to spend one-on-one time. So I try to remind myself of that and look around, maybe at lunch and say, who have I not sat with? Right. One-on-one. Had a conversation with. So important.
Definitely. definitely. And that you get to sit and have lunch with them. That's also really nice.
You have to model. I don't know how else they would learn.
Exactly. Yeah. I worked I worked a lot as a substitute when we lived in Maui, and there was this one teacher that I loved to be in her classroom. She's probably now 72 years old, and she's been a Montessori teacher for 30, 40 years now, something like that. And she sits down, like you're saying, at a different table every day, and she sits with the children, and she has her little placemat, and she puts everything out, and she has a great conversation with the child she's sitting with. And it's so nice when adults can like do that and take that time. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for parents is that's what we can do. You know, we have the opportunity to have breakfast with our children. We have the opportunity to have dinner with them and the weekends and really give them that quality time. And whenever I look at parent books, that's the biggest thing I see is to give your child at least 10 minutes of your time a day. That's one-on-one, and it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. I'm always amazed at the parents that come through the school, and like if their children don't sit for a long time at the lunch table, I'll ask the parents, tell me about your dinner situation. So many parents don't sit with their children at dinner. They'll have a separate table even. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I'll say, you either get yourself a little chair and join that small table, or you bring that child in.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but I think that's what children remember.
Exactly. And preferably not having electronics at dinner, I would say as well. And that's I feel really sad when I go to restaurants and I see the kids just zoned out and the parents having their conversation and the children are kind of like MIA.
I wonder sometimes about our future. But Mira, you and I will keep making sure that doesn't happen with our children, right?
Oh, no way. Exactly. And no judgments. Who knows what the other meals were like? Maybe they had a great meal with their children the rest of the day, and that at that point they were all kind of done. So absolutely. We never know. No judgment. We never know. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to have this Montessori talk with me. No problem. I loved visiting your school, and you gave such a wonderful welcome to my little 3.5-year-old, Raphael. And just like you said about greeting your children, the first thing in the door, you said hi to him and asked him what his interests were and shook his hand, made eye contact, and then you went and gave him a buddy. And that was awesome.
Thank you.